capabilities, calls America, of course, the great Satan, and Israel, the little Satan. Now let's look at this gallery of some of villains in history. You have Pharaoh, Amalek, you have Sennacherib of Assyria, you have Haman, you have Antiochus with Hanukkah, you have Caligula, you have Nero, we said Hitler, you got Herod, Stalin, Mao, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden. Very different men, mostly living in different times. But the interesting thing is they have similar traits of personality. And you see a pattern through these things, which reveal something spiritual. And see, first of all, one of the things that we see about virtually all of them is that they were manipulators. Most of them schemers, treacherous, often usurpers. Haman schemed and plotted his way in power. Antiochus schemed and murdered his way to power. So did Herod. He schemed and manipulated and murdered his way to power. So did Stalin. Same thing. He came to power the same way, scheming, murdering, manipulating. Hitler did the same thing. In Weimar Germany, he schemed, threatened, he flattered, he manipulated his way. And into chancellorship and then into dictator. Saddam Hussein did the same thing. He was the assistant to the Iraqi leader, but he consolidated his power, maneuvered, eliminated his enemies, and he took over. Another theme you see with these people is the theme of dictator or tyrant. And that is that you see that, of course, they all want to rule with an iron hand. You have the Pharaoh of Egypt. You have the king of Assyria. You have Haman. All of them, Nero, Stalin, all of them sought to rule with an iron hand. Hussein, same thing. They all demanded absolute power. And then you have another thing, that all of them were arrogant or were self-centered, treacherous, hateful, brutal, murderous, dark. Even some of them were blasphemers. They boasted. Evil men. Many of them sought to be worshipped. Because why are there so many similarities with these people? I mean, this is like from the ancient pharaohs to modern 21st century. Why? What is it that binds them all together? Well, what it reveals is behind them, behind any evil, behind very evil men, is the reality of a greater enemy. The enemy is real. The Bible speaks of an enemy. He's real. He's not some impersonal force. He is reality. When you look at the most evil people, you'll see not just a general evil pattern. You'll see specific patterns which are revealing the personality of the evil one, or the devil, as the Bible says, or in Hebrew, Hasatan, which means, or we get the word Satan from it, means the enemy. And the fact that this personality comes out with most of them is showing that there is something very real here going on. In John 8, verse 44, the Lord said to the people who are coming against him, he said, listen, you're of your father, the devil. You are children, you're following him. Well, these villains of history are truly children of the devil. Now, anybody who's not saved is under that same influence. But these are bringing it out to the fullest. And it reveals the nature of the enemy, the nature of evil, which is what? The first thing we see about Satan, if this reveals it, is that he is a manipulator. He's a schemer. He is treacherous. His nature is to usurp. That you see it with all these people. They sought to take the throne. Why? Because Satan, that is his nature. In Isaiah 14, it says, I will ascend. I want you to see it. I want you to see it for yourself. This is Isaiah. Turn to Isaiah 14. And this is a revelation of the enemy. And you see that literally in these ones as well. Isaiah 14 and it says in verse 12, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you've said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. That is the nature of Satan. Number one, you see, I will. And secondly, you see, I will ascend, I will take the throne. He's like number 2, I will take the throne. You see the same pattern with these people. Same pattern. Hitler was number 2. He ascended, he took over the throne. Same with Saddam Hussein. Same with Stalin. Same with all. It's the spirit of the enemy, because the enemy is a usurper. He doesn't have any legitimate authority, but he seeks to use authority. What else do you see about these people, these villains of history, that gives a revelation about the enemy? They all seek to rule with an iron hand. The enemy wants to rule with an iron hand. His nature is to rule no matter what. That's why when he tempted the Messiah, when he tempted Jesus, he said, bow down. He doesn't ultimately want anything in his way. The nature of sin is never to take a little bit. The nature of sin is to take everything. So when you flirt with a sin, know that sin, the nature is ultimately to totally destroy you. That's the point. That's the enemy. There's no middle ground with the enemy. He might come first as if a little ground, but he will never be content. You give him an inch, he'll go for a mile. What else do we see about many of these dictators? They were